Time Division is a pretty simple and pretty complicated game that is a filler and also not a filler. I don't know, maybe they were going for that kind of ambiguity on purpose in a game that is about time traveling anthropomorphic animals that will travel through three ages and they will try to gain as much influence in each age as possible. The game feels a bit overproduced. It is a two-player game with 3 decks of 18 cards each representing ancient times, the Middle Ages, and the 1980s. And you can play each game independently, so kind of like it becomes like a 10-minute game, sort of like Love Letter. And that's it. That's just so you have 3 mini games. You can also play them in order. And each mini game then becomes a phase, it becomes a round, and each time that you score points in the campaign game, you will pull this marker towards you, and your opponent will do the same. And if the marker is on your side at the end of the last round, then you win the game. So pretty much here you have again 3 mini games or a campaign game, which is why it's kind of like a filler with the mini game. And kind of like more than that in the campaign game. Now, first we're going to talk about the round in general, the things that apply to both the campaign and not the campaign. So each card here is a number that represents its influence value, and then there is a line of text in this mysterious language called Iconese. And you gotta learn it, friends. You gotta learn it. After a while, you will know that this means you take a card from your hand of your choice and exchange it with a random card from the hand of the opponent. I think that's what it does. You choose a card from the hand of the opponent, trigger its effect, and so on and so forth. Take a card of your choice from the past and place it in your influence area. So, the board will help you. This is the past, which is a fancy word for the discard pile. This is where you're placing cards that are played, actually. These are cards that are, well, they're placed there at the beginning of the round, and they don't do anything unless there's an effect that targets them. And these 2 symbols represent the influence area where you place the cards that you collect and you hope to score. Blue means you and red means them, as indicator represented by the little pedestals, and I can't figure out why we need them. My friend thought that probably you needed to move this somewhere. No, it's just there. So, here's how the game works. We shuffle these cards and we make them into a pile of, well, 18 cards. Then you give 3 cards to your opponent and 3 cards to yourself. Of these 3 cards, 1 you keep for yourself, 1 you place in that area there where it may be targeted by effects, and 1 you give to the opponent, and the opponent does exactly the same. And then you repeat the same procedure until basically you'll have 6 cards in your personal area, and there will be 6 cards in the opponent's hand and 6 cards there. And then you look at your hand and you read Iconese. There's also a coin. That's pretty cool. At the beginning of the game, the coin is flipped randomly to determine who goes first. The player that has the coin on their side plays their card first. Suppose I look on my things and I play my card face up like that. Then the opponent plays a card from their hand. For the sake of the example, we're going to play this one instead. The coin goes to the side that has the highest value, and in case of a tie, like that would be the case, the coin stays there. So in this case, the coin stays there, the coin stays there, and the opponent plays something higher than 4 if they have it. They take the coin, or they get the coin on their side. Oh, look at that. So, of course, the player with the coin plays first, meaning the player who plays second has an advantage because they see what's available, what's there, and they can decide what to do with that. After you possibly move the coin, the player whose side the coin is gets to choose what to do with these 2 cards that have been played. 1 card will be triggered for its effect, so you perform its effect, and then the card is placed in the past, meaning again the discard pile. The other card is taken by the player. So one card is taken, one card is triggered, and it's always the owner. The owner who played the card takes the card if taken. The owner who played the card triggers the effect if triggered. That's it. That's how we do it. Then we play another card again. Well, this time that player has the coin, so they should go first. I think after I see that, I decide to play the 6, and now I decide which card is retained, which card is triggered and discarded. And that's how we continue until all cards have been played, and then we'll look at our influence area, and the player with the most influence wins the game. If you're playing just a mini game with a single deck. If you're playing through the 18 cards as the first round of a 3-round game, then we also add these 2 cards and we give 1 to each player. And so each player starts with 1, then you will get 6 through the usual draft, so you'll have 7. With your hand of 7, you will choose 1 to place face down here before gameplay starts, and then you play six cards and resolve those as usual. Why is this important? Because these cards are worth 2 points to the worth 1 point each to the player controlling them. So maybe you were hiding your card there, and I want to do something to steal it, but maybe that you didn't hide that one there. Maybe you're hiding something else. So this adds an element of bluffing, because if you're playing each deck as the round of the campaign, at the end of the campaign, the player with the most influence scores 2 points, and the players with these guys, they score 1 point for each time traveler that they have, and this is when you move the marker. So this is the general idea. The past, the ancient Egypt here has the most basic effects. The Middle Ages, the deck of the Middle Ages also has some effects. They're variable. Orange means whoever missed the condition is orange, and therefore the corresponding effect applies to them. For example, whoever has the most cards in their influence area when this card displayed, and if the effect is triggered, is orange, then orange takes a card from their scoring area and place it in the past. So if I have a lot of awesome cards, I really don't want to trigger that effect, so probably if I'm the one choosing what happens to the cards, I may give you the card and trigger my own. Probably. So here's again the orange, meaning that the effect applies, usually it's negative effects applying to the player ahead, so this orange effect has a rubber banding element overall. And here we have in the 1980s cards with variable scoring. It's funny they're upside down, because some of these effects are that you put them upside down, meaning once they are, oh man, can I find the ones that I need already? There you go. Usually you should play this one face up, then however, if you take it, you place it from your play area to your influence area, you flip it upside down, and then the value is 4 times the number of upside down cards that you have for this one. And here 2 times the number of cards you have in an influence area. So you have scoring whose value depends on whether they're upside down or not. So the idea is always the same, whether you're playing each round on its own or as a part of a campaign. In each round, you will have a draft, so the 6 cards go in your hand, 7 if you're playing the campaign. But then 6 cards are played, and you see then who has the most influence, and in the campaign also who controls, I was fooled, who also controls the time travelers, and highest score wins the game. In the mini game, influence being on your side wins the game in the campaign game. So this is time division. it's filler, but also not, because it requires a level of Iconese learning that is quite intense. I totally understand why they wanted to save money and not put text there, but trust me, the game would be a filler if there was a textual reminder right there. As things stand, there is a reminder of what each card does here. But to play a game that is like 10 minutes, you need to learn these 18 cards. So like, okay. But once you learn it, that's it. It's just 18 cards and doesn't have a lot of replay value, doesn't have a huge excitement to it. It's a filler that it took you quite a while to learn. And then you got the Dark Ages, and you got 18 more, and then you got this other one. So to play each age, it requires, I think, the effort to learn each age of, a much bigger game with more choices, more decisions. I played this game with two different friends, so one a very casual gamer and one a pretty heavy gamer, so that you have context. We played this game right after he taught me Hegemony, and that's one heavy game. So he can teach and play Hegemony, and of course he struggled. He struggled at the beginning because you have to learn all these icons, and then you have to figure out how to use them. And the card drafting thing is original, and that's nice, but it's also counterintuitive in how it works. And I would say if you add the drafting system, which feels fairly new and original, maybe you should dial back on adding a lot of variety and new information elsewhere. So it's a hard one for me to judge, because actually I kind of enjoyed it, but if those two friends show up, then maybe I'll play it with them. But I don't feel like, training other people again, because the first game is going to take longer than it should, and it's not going to be particularly engaging for you who already know the game. And so that's the weirdness of it. It's a real little filler, really little filler. Probably the game could just be this, maybe with a couple of tokens indicating in different areas. It's really a little filler with a learning curve that is exceptionally high for a little filler. Once you have that, once the players know how it works, it's kind of enjoyable. But again, you will have to really relearn it basically every time that you pick it up. But I really enjoyed it, actually, when my friends became a little more comfortable. I really enjoyed the bluffing, the strategy, the thinking. But then there are bluffing games with unique effects that have similar effects, that have similar kind of depth, and a fraction of the icons and a fraction of the effects, and I think those are more enjoyable. So my review of Time Division is mixed, because, my feelings are mixed, and I wish it was a little bit more or a little bit less than it is. But as a hybrid between a filler with a lot of icons and unique effects, again, it's not one that I enjoyed a lot at the beginning. It's one that I enjoyed more later. But I don't know how often I'm gonna do that kind of journey, and how often I'm gonna train my friends to play this game.